Hello and Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to the 15th episode of Organization and Management course of MBA Cole. I'm your host Komal, and with me I have the expert Mr. Said Chaudhary. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Students, in today's program we are going to study what is organizational development. And now I would like the expert to tell us what is organizational development.
Now, organizational development is a planned effort managed by the people at the top for making the organization more effective and developed in structures, and it is done through certain interventions. And as you might have noted, it is related to a certain discipline which we call behavioral science, because we need people to work in organizations, and therefore we have to develop the organization with the development of these people.
Expert, you have just told us that it is related to some kind of discipline, which is behavioral sciences, and you have told us what is organizational development. Would you be kind enough to tell us how do we bring about that development?
Now, all development is change, and change for the betterment of the organization to make it more effective.
And now we will come to the OD strategy, which is a complex strategy intended to change the beliefs, attitudes, values, and structure of organizations so that they can better adapt to new technologies, markets, and challenges. I would like the expert to explain us further.
As we have noted, the strategy is complex and it's organization-wide, it's managed from the top, and it needs interventions. Now, through this strategy, what do? We change values, we change attitudes, we change work habits, beliefs, and we change the structures with which the organization is made of. That is, its departments, its divisions, its units and subunits. And we also train people to use new technologies. With the coming of new technologies, there are changes in organizational structures also. So all these processes which are managed through interventions help us change and develop the organization. Now, it's not only a simple change, it's a complex and organization-wide change, and it is managed from the top, and it changes the values and beliefs and attitudes and work habits. And alongside that, obviously, we have to change the structures, the structures of which the organization is made of.
All right.
That is the departments and the divisions. And these need changes in the human resource also. If we introduce new technologies, we need training, and therefore we have to train people in the new technologies and raise their productivity. Now, what we must note here is that organizational development is not just any change to make the organization better in this aspect or in that aspect. It's a planned change, which means that it's a series of changes and the processes, and it's done through interventions which are very well planned before their introduction. And you can see it involves reflection. That is, it involves thinking before planning, and it involves system improvement, planning, and ultimately self-analysis. That is, what will happen if this change is executed, and how would it benefit the organization?
So basically, sir, it's the change that is being developed.
It's the change that leads to development,
All right.
but it's a planned and well thought out change.
There is a visual also. I would want you to explain it to the students.
You are right. It's a beautiful visual, and it explains very clearly that the change involves beliefs, attitudes, values, and structures. Structures are material things, while values and attitudes and beliefs are mental, related to our intellect and thinking. And they all lead to changes in technologies, in our marketing strategies, and they help us meet challenges of competition and challenge of new inventions, which we call interventions here, and new technologies which are the results of these inventions. So this is the way the process of change takes place, the change that leads to development.
So you just told us that there are certain processes involved when we talk of organizational development. What are these processes?
The change processes, as I have already explained, can be broadly divided into two categories. The ones that seem to be mental, related to our thinking, and the others are material. For example, we can see the processes leading to system improvement and organizational reflection, that is the thinking in the organizations and how this organization has its own reflections on the market. And these processes are to be planned, and they are a result of the self-analysis of the manager, who believes that this is the appropriate time to change. That the first thing is that the manager must feel the need to change, and he must be sensitive enough to sense that the change is coming. And these are done or executed to achieve higher organizational effectiveness and to increase efficiencies in various parts of the organization, maybe administrative, maybe our accounting system, maybe the financial analysis, maybe the manufacturing processes, and the productivity related processes, and also in totality it all leads to the betterment of the organization and the people as a whole.
Students, OD seems to be not a short-term process, but it seems to be a long-range process and effort in order to solve an organization's problems and as well as renew the processes. I would want the expert to explain further.
Since the corporation or any business is a going concern,
Yes, sir.
and it is always doing its business, so it needs to develop all the time, because obviously if a company doesn't develop, it will be left behind.
All right.
And ultimately it may be left out of business.
All right.
So the development or organizational development, which we call OD,
Yes.
is a long-range process, which means that the manager has to be sensitive enough to sense changes and to continue to make changes and develop. As you can see on the slide, organizational development is a long-range effort to improve organizations' problem solving and renewal processes, particularly through more effective and collaborative management of organizational culture, with specific emphasis on the culture of formal work teams with the assistance of a change agent or catalyst, and the use of the theory and technology of applied behavioral science, including action research. Now, it seems to be quite a complex statement, but if we look at it carefully, we'll find some keywords. For example, collaborative. It means that organizational change and development is a collaborative effort.
Then there is the word, sir, management of organization culture.
Yes, people have to be included, and since people, when they work together and for some time, they create a culture in the organization. And creating culture also depends upon the attitudes of the top management.
Exactly.
So the culture will change, and the behavior will change, and it will change collectively. And the manager must watch carefully what interventions he is using and how they are affecting this change, and whether we are achieving the objectives we want to achieve. I mean the objectives of organizational development.
Expert, is there any kind of special approach that we need for this OD?
Special approach is needed because, as we discussed, it's not just any change in any aspect that we are doing for making something better. It's about the whole organization and all the people working. So the finances, the human resource, the marketing, the logistics, the communications, since all are involved, we need to plan it very carefully. The people should feel that they want this change, rather they have suggested this change.
All right.
It should come from them. But we need technical advice. We need an exactitude. We need measurement.
Yes.
So there must be some expert or consultant who should guide this process, while the people should feel that they are doing it themselves. So it's a very special process in this way.
And now, students, let us see, why do organizational development? Human resources, changing nature of the workplace, global markets, accelerated rate of change. Expert will further explain it.
What we need to think of here is the title of the slide, that is, why do organizational development? Why should a manager think of organizational development? Why should he start doing organizational development? So it says that, first of all, human resource. Now, science and technology is developing all the time, with the result that not only the greater inventions or those which bring far-reaching changes in the whole atmosphere of business and industry, but also there are changes in tools and implements. There are changes at worker level too. There are changes in workstation designs, changes in ergonomics, and we need to train people in new methods all the time. When we introduce new technologies, and we need the highest level of training for our managers also in business management. So it's the human resource that in a way impels us to make continuous changes and develop the organizations continuously. Similarly, when we talk of changing nature of workplace, as I have explained, it may be a change in the workstation design, or it may be change in the whole office layout. It may be a change in the installation of a factory, or introducing new machines which have to be installed, change in assembly line. So that is from bigger to even to smallest changes in the workplace. And the changes in global markets. This is an era of globalization, and the world market is expanding. It's expanding not only due to globalization and policies of World Bank or IMF, it's also expanding due to new products coming, new designs coming, and there are relaxations in the import and export procedures also. They have been streamlined, and so the market has broadened.
Yes.
And now global markets are available to managers. And last of all, when we call accelerated change, it is common knowledge now that science is expanding at a great rate. It's more than doubling in a year. And its applications are bringing new technologies and new ways of working things and new ways of producing things.
Yes.
So that has already taken us at the business and industry, and we have to continuously race. The managers have to be very quick in discerning all these changes, and they have to keep pace with the accelerated rate of changes in science and technology.
They have to be all updated always.
They have to update themselves continuously.
Who does organizational development? Stakeholders, buy-in ownership involvement, change agents, change leaders, OD practitioners, internal consultants, external consultants, people who use advocates and assist others to implement OD, people who use and apply OD to their work.
Now, this explains that somebody has to take initiative and has to start organizational development or start thinking about organizational development. And there are also certain forces which force us to develop the organizations. For example, the stakeholders, because their investments are at stake, their profits are at stake,
Yes.
and their goodwill
Is at stake.
are at stake, and also the markets. So the stakeholders are in the form of buy-ins, that another company buys a company, or the ownership changes, or there are other involvements in the financial matters through loans and credits. And these become change agents because they have their own ideas of changes, and mostly they come for development and they insist on development.
All right.
Similarly, there are change leaders, people who are more innovative, more active in their thinking, more sensitive to changes in the markets or in changes in technologies.
More revolutionized.
You are right, they are revolutionary thinkers, and they become change leaders. So organizational development has also become a science, and it has its own practitioners. It has its experts who are not only thinkers, but they can do things practically.
All right.
And they can suggest strategies, they can analyze markets, they can visualize the benefits or otherwise of new ways of production. And these people, when they develop into a business itself, they become consultants, and they have developed their own companies, and they are now external consultants. That is, they provide consultancies to
other companies as well.
and
All right.
people for organizational development. These are the people who use, advocate, and assist others to implement organizational development. People who use and apply organizational development to their own work, that is sort of internal consistency, and people who provide these services in a specialized manner to other companies, they are external consultants.
We can infer that not only it is a whole business, but it is a science in itself, organization development.
Yes, it is a result of the science of organizational development. This science has given rise to certain business,
Yes.
and they have developed into consultant companies now.
Expert, I would want to ask that when an organization is ready to undergo organizational development?
This is very interesting. As you can see, there's no formula for measuring or for deciding that this is the time to change. But however, there are certain factors indicative of the right time to change. And it's in a very interesting way depicted here. It's dissatisfaction multiplied by vision and first steps or the initiative. And if the product of these three is greater than resistance to change, which means that it will overcome change, and they can change now.
All right.
The resistance is not that forceful, while the dissatisfaction and the vision and the initiative of the manager is more than resistance, so that is the time to change.
And now students, few characteristics of organizational development: change, collaborative effort, performance, humanistic, systematic, and scientific. I would like the expert to explain further.
Now, these are the characteristics, which means that what is a good change and what is a change for the betterment of the company and the people. How does it show? So if the change is there, the change itself will indicate that things are changing. But to be a good change, it must be a collaborative effort. That is, people should join hands and they should feel that they are a part of it.
All right.
Rather, they wanted it, they initiated it. And then it shows in the performance. If it's a good change and people want it or they feel that they want it, there will be an improvement in their performance. And it must be humanistic. That is, we should not make people mechanical.
All right.
We should not make managers insensitive to the needs of their workers. We all need to be humanistic all the time, and we should make it a belief that the business and industry are all working for the collective good of the people, the collective good of the humanity. But to be a successful change, it must be an organized change, which means it must be a systematic change. That is, there should be steps, and they should be well planned, they should be measured, and they should be taken in a succession so that they lead to success. But all this must be based on scientific thinking, on rational analysis,
All right.
and on the basis which can be discussed, which can be challenged, which can be improved on the rationality of the people or the managers who can think and analyze the things.
Whereas students, OD interventions are techniques, approaches, range of actions designed to improve the health or functioning of the system, organization, specific means, actions, programs by which change can be determined.
The interventions are practical things, so they cannot be generic. They change from industry to industry, from business to business, and according to the environment or the situation available. Now, when we talk of interventions, if we want to be practical, we must go to the detail of what sort of practical interventions are used. And as I told you, they differ from industry to industry and from business to business, whether it's a manufacturing business or it's marketing or it provides services. So when we come to the practical, it's the result of these interventions that shows whether we are successful in making the changes. And let's see what sort of results are there that can guide us to the interventions. As interventions lead to results, from results we can infer interventions.
But sir, there must be some indication for the application of these practically needed applications.
Yes, I'm talking of the same results that are the results of interventions.
OD interventions, let us see what are these. Human process, T groups, process consultation, team building, intergroup relations, technostructural, structural change, quality circles, total quality management, also known as TQM, and work design.
As you can see, not only these are the interventions, although here too they are given in a generic form, but if you see against them there are three columns: individual, group, and organization. That is, there are certain interventions which will be on individual level, and certain others will be at group level, and still others will be at organizational level. And while planning change, we can apply this template to different industries and services, and we can also then go into details of making the measurement of these results. For example, if we have quality circles or quality teams, how should they be composed of? How should they go about their work? What standards they should make for measuring the quality?
Yes.
And what is the level of quality demanded by clients, which the company should meet? And further on, we can see goal setting, for example, production goals and marketing goals or profit goals or finance, and maybe there are change goals, that is, whether we are going to have machinery, new machinery by the end of this year or in the coming year, and what improvement in the performance should be there. So all this can apply beautifully to any organization and industry, and it can be used for managing change and for measuring the development. And that brings us to the end of this program.
Thank you so much, students, for watching today's episode. I would like to thank our expert.
Thank you.
And with this, I will bid you goodbye. We will see you next time. Allah Hafiz.